You step through the doorway, perhaps into your kitchen, maybe a friend's living room, or even a hotel lobby you've never visited before, and suddenly, the air changes. Not literally. No shift in temperature, no new scent, no flicker of light. But something deeper, quieter, more unsettling shifts inside you. A whisper in the base of your skull says, "You've done this. Exactly this. Right here." The angle of the lamp. The hum of the refrigerator. The way your foot lands on the third tile. It's all happened before. Not in a story. Not in a dream you can place. But in a moment so precise, so vividly lived, that your body tenses with recognition, even though your mind scrambles to find the file, the folder, the memory, and finds nothing. This is Déjà Vu. And it is not nostalgia. It is not recollection. It is the eerie, silent alarm of a reality that has hiccuped, and you, somehow, noticed. The term, borrowed from French, translates simply, already seen. But that simplicity belies the profound unease it carries. Scientists, ever eager to map the wilderness of the mind, offer theories. The leading one suggests a neurological misfire, a momentary glitch in the brain's memory architecture. Picture two systems, one laying down new memories, another retrieving old ones. In that fractional second of déjà vu, the new experience is accidentally routed through the retrieval pathway. Your brain doesn't say, "This is happening now." It says, "This has already been stored." It's as if your consciousness is a film projector, and for a single frame, it skipped ahead, then snapped back, leaving you with the ghost of a scene you haven't yet lived. Some researchers compare it to a momentary seizure in the temporal lobe, a flicker of hypersynchrony that tricks the mind into believing the present is the past. Functional MRIs show heightened activity in regions associated with familiarity and memory conflict, the brain arguing with itself, trying to reconcile the impossible. But what if the explanation is not in the wiring, but in the nature of time itself? What if déjà vu is not a malfunction, but a revelation? A seam in the fabric, briefly parted. Consider this: if time is not the arrow we've been taught, if past, present, and future are not sequential but simultaneous, stacked like transparencies or humming in parallel like radio frequencies, then perhaps déjà vu is the moment your awareness brushes against another version of itself. In another timeline, another iteration of you walked into this room, felt this air, heard this silence, and now, for reasons unknown, the resonance bleeds through. You are not remembering. You are overlapping. This is the whisper of quantum selves, the echo of branching paths, the soft collision of parallel nows. Ancient mystics called it eternal recurrence. Modern philosophers call it the block universe. You just call it that strange, spine-tingling certainty that you've stood here before, smiling at a joke not yet told, reaching for a cup not yet placed. Pause now. Let the silence settle around you. Think of the last time it happened, that flicker of impossible familiarity. Did the room feel heavier? Did your breath catch? Did time, just for a heartbeat, feel elastic? That sensation, that quiet dread wrapped in wonder, is the signature of the glitch. It's the universe reminding you, gently, that your perception is not the whole picture. That the story you're living is not the only story being told. That perhaps, just perhaps, you are not a single thread in time's tapestry, but a pattern, repeating, echoing, brushing up against itself across dimensions you cannot name. And if your mind can brush against time, what happens when your body wakes, but your soul remains adrift? When you open your eyes, truly open them, and find yourself frozen, breath-trapped, shadow looming at the edge of sight? That is not déjà vu. That is something older. Something deeper. Something waiting just beneath the surface of sleep. Let us drift now, into the next glitch. The one that holds you still while the world watches. Sleep paralysis. You are awake, truly awake. You hear the soft oscillation of the ceiling fan. You feel the weight of the blanket, the cool cotton against your skin. You can even smell the faint trace of laundry detergent lingering in the sheets. But when you try to move, to stretch, to turn, to sit up, nothing answers. Your body is stone. Your limbs, locked. Your voice, swallowed in your throat. And then, you sense it. A presence. At the foot of the bed. In the corner. Leaning over you. Watching. Sometimes it presses down, a crushing weight on your chest, as if an invisible hand is holding you still, as if gravity itself has doubled just for you. Your heart races. Your breath shallows. Panic surges, but your muscles refuse to respond. This is not a nightmare. You are not dreaming. You are trapped, lucid, conscious, terrified, in the borderlands between sleep and waking. This is sleep paralysis. And though it feels like a haunting, it is not supernatural. It is your own biology, misfiring with theatrical precision. Sleep paralysis is the ghost that evolution left behind. During REM sleep, the stage where dreams are most vivid, your brain, in its wisdom, paralyzes your voluntary muscles. It's a safety mechanism. Without it, you'd leap from your bed chasing dream dragons or throw punches at dream enemies. But sometimes, as you surface from sleep, your mind awakens before the paralysis lifts. You become conscious inside a body still under dreamlock. And in that fragile, suspended moment, when logic is offline and primal fear is online, your dreaming brain doesn't shut down. It keeps projecting. It weaves hallucinations from the raw material of dread, shadowy figures looming in doorways, whispers slithering from the walls, the sensation of being pinned, choked, or watched. These are not intrusions from another realm. They are your own mind's desperate attempt to make sense of sensory dissonance, a story stitched together from adrenaline, fragmented dream imagery, and the ancient, animal part of you that equates immobility with predation. Pause now. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breath deepen. You are safe. No demon crouches beside you. No alien studies your still form. It was a glitch, a miscommunication between brainstem and cortex, between dream and daylight. And yet, why do so many, across continents and centuries, describe the same entities? The old hag of Newfoundland folklore. The Kanashibari of Japan. The Jinn of the Middle East. The alien greys of modern reports. Are these merely cultural costumes draped over the same neurological event? Or is there something in that threshold, that thin, trembling veil between consciousness and unconsciousness, that genuinely allows perception to brush against something else? Something that waits in the quiet, in the dark, in the pause between breaths? Perhaps the universality of the vision is not proof of shared myth, but shared access. A crack in the veil, briefly opened, not by spirits, but by biology, through which something older than fear might peer back. And if your mind can conjure presences from nothing, what else can it conjure? What if belief alone, no medicine, no surgery, no intervention, could mend a wound, quiet a pain, still a tremor? What if the most powerful drug in the world is the story you tell yourself? Let us drift now, gently, from the terror of the unseen watcher, to the quiet miracle of the mind's invisible hand. Welcome to the Placebo Effect. It begins with a story. A white coat. A solemn nod. A vial, cool and gleaming, held gently in gloved hands. This, they say, is the new formula. Very powerful. You swallow the pill, chalky, tasteless, inert. Or feel the pinch of a needle carrying nothing but salt water. No active molecule. No biochemical intervention. Just theater. Just trust. And yet, the migraine dulls. The tremor stills. The ache in your joints softens like melting ice. The fever breaks. The depression lifts, just a little, but enough. This is the placebo effect, not illusion, not imagination, but a quiet, measurable rebellion of the body against its own suffering, summoned not by chemistry, but by conviction. It is the most profound glitch in the system of modern medicine, a reminder that the boundary between mind and matter is not a wall, but a whisper. Science, ever eager to dissect wonder, has mapped its mechanisms. When you believe you are receiving treatment, your brain doesn't shrug and say, "Nice try." It responds. It releases endorphins, the body's native painkillers. It modulates dopamine, reshaping reward and motivation pathways. It calms the amygdala, quieting the alarm bells of anxiety. It can even reduce inflammation markers in the blood, slow heart rate, alter immune cell activity. Functional imaging shows real, physical changes lighting up in the brain, the prefrontal cortex whispering to the hypothalamus murmuring to the adrenal glands, the glands sighing into the bloodstream. The body, convinced it is being cared for, begins to care for itself. It is not all in your head. It is your head, wise, ancient, alchemical, speaking the language of flesh, and being heard. Pause here. Let that settle. Let it dissolve slowly, like a sugar pill under the tongue of your understanding. If belief can command neurons to fire differently, if expectation can coax cells to behave better, then what is illness, truly? How much of your pain is rooted not in tissue, but in story? How much of your fatigue is woven from dread, not deficiency? Could your morning ritual, the deep breath, the warm tea, the silent affirmation, be as potent as any prescription, if only you believed it? Could a whispered mantra, a sacred object, a trusted face, a familiar scent, become medicine? The implications ripple outward, unsettling the foundations of clinical trials, of pharmaceutical ethics, of our very definition of healing. If the mind can heal the body, then healing is not passive. It is participatory. It is co-created. It is a spell, spoken in the language of attention, expectation, and surrender. And yet, for all its grace, the body does not always obey. Sometimes, just as you are sinking into the velvet dark of sleep, surrendering to warmth and weightlessness, your leg jerks violently. Your whole body flinches, as if falling from a great height. No dream. No danger. Just a sudden, electric betrayal from within. The peace shatters. The spell breaks. The body, it seems, has its own stories to tell, and not all of them are soothing. Let us now drift toward that jolt, that primal twitch at the edge of sleep. The hypnic jerk, where biology startles itself, awake. You are sinking, slowly, sweetly, into the warm dark. The day's noise has faded. The weight of your limbs is delicious. Your thoughts, once sharp and chattering, have softened into mist. You are crossing the threshold, slipping from wakefulness into the velvet hush of sleep, and then, without warning, your body betrays you. A sudden, violent twitch. Your leg kicks out as if dodging a step that isn't there. Your arms jerk upward, grasping at empty air. Your whole torso convulses, a silent, electric jolt that snaps you back to full alertness, heart pounding, sheets tangled, the peace shattered. No dream preceded it. No nightmare provoked it. Just your own nervous system, misfiring at the borderlands. This is the hypnic jerk, not a seizure, not a spasm of stress, but a biological echo, a ghost reflex from deep in your evolutionary past, whispering through your synapses as you dare to let go. Science calls it a hypnagogic jerk, a myoclonic twitch that strikes in the fragile moment between consciousness and slumber. As your muscles begin to relax, as your brain starts dimming the lights of voluntary control, something in your ancient neural wiring misreads the signal. The slackening of muscle tone, that gentle surrender to gravity, is mistaken for falling. And falling, to a creature that once slept in trees, was death. So the brain, ever vigilant, ever archaic, slams the emergency brake. It fires a signal down the spine: grab on. Your limbs jerk. Your body tenses. You are, for a split second, back in the canopy, fingers clutching bark, legs braced against the void, even as you lie perfectly safe in your bed, surrounded by pillows and silence. It is evolution's leftover alarm system, still wired and waiting, still mistaking peace for peril. Breathe into that tension, and release it. Let the adrenaline dissolve. Let the sheets settle again. There is no branch to cling to. No predator below. Only the soft mattress, the quiet room, the forgiving dark. And yet, what if this twitch is more than a misfire? What if it is a message, not from danger, but from depth? A gentle, muscular nudge from your primal self, reminding you, not yet. Don't surrender quite yet. Even as you drift, even as you soften, your body remembers its duty, to stay alive, to stay alert, to never fully trust the fall. It is the last whisper of the animal in you, reluctant to release its grip on the waking world. In that twitch, you are both modern human and ancient primate, caught between the luxury of rest and the legacy of survival. And if your body resists the familiar comfort of sleep with sudden violence, what happens when it does the opposite? When the utterly familiar, a word, a face, a street you've walked 1,000 times, suddenly feels alien? Uncanny. Unknowable. As if you've never seen it before. Not a memory lost, but recognition revoked. This is not Déjà Vu. This is its eerie twin, the quiet unraveling of the known. Let us now drift into that unsettling stillness, where the familiar becomes foreign. Enter, Jamais Vu. You've written your name 1,000 times. Signed checks, scribbled notes, doodled it in margins during long meetings. It is the first word you learn to shape with your own hand, a symbol of you, etched into muscle memory. But now, you stare at it. On the page. On the screen. And it doesn't feel like yours. The curves seem strange. The letters, disconnected. It looks like a code you've never cracked, a glyph from a forgotten language. You blink. You shake your head. Still, it stares back, alien, hollow, meaningless. Or perhaps you're walking down the hallway of your childhood home, the one where you took your first steps, where you hid during thunderstorms, where you whispered secrets under blankets, and suddenly, it feels like a stage set. The walls are too still. The air, too quiet. Nothing resonates. Nothing welcomes you. This is Jamais Vu, never seen. Not the echo of a past moment, but the erasure of a present one. The known, unknitted. The familiar, made foreign. Neurologically, this is the mind's quiet rebellion against repetition. Say any word, spoon, window, tomorrow, over and over, aloud or in your head, and eventually, it sheds its meaning. The sound becomes noise. The shape, scribbles. This is semantic satiation, the brain's way of saying, enough. I've processed this. Move on. But Jamais Vu is deeper. It's not just words. It's places. Faces. Routines. Your morning coffee cup, held daily for years, suddenly feels like an artifact from someone else's life. Your partner's voice, heard every day for a decade, rings with strange inflection, as if spoken through water. It's as if your brain, overwhelmed or fatigued, performs a soft reset, temporarily disconnecting the thread between perception and emotional recognition. The object remains. The memory remains. But the feeling of knowing? Vanished. like a file that's still on the hard drive, but the program can't open it. Stare at your hand for a moment. Really look. The whorls of your fingerprints. The faint blue veins beneath the skin. The slight asymmetry of your knuckles. Does it still feel like yours? Or does it, too, begin to hover at the edge of strangeness, a biological machine you pilot, but do not truly own? If reality is built on the quiet contract of recognition, if home is only home because you call it that, if self is only self because you remember being it, then Jamais Vu is the moment that contract flickers. It's a crack in the illusion of continuity, a whisper that nothing is inherently familiar. We stitch together our world with threads of assumption, habit, and memory, and sometimes, the stitching comes undone. For a breath. For a heartbeat. Long enough to make you wonder, if familiarity is just a story we tell ourselves, what happens when the story stops? And if your mind can dissolve the meaning of your own name, what happens when it rewrites history itself? When thousands remember an event that never occurred? When the past you swear you lived, is gently, firmly, corrected by the world around you? That is not a glitch of perception. That is a glitch of collective memory. Let us now wander into that uncanny valley of shared false remembrance, where history itself seems to have edited its files. The Mandela Effect awaits. You remember it clearly, the grainy news footage, the somber music, the world mourning. Nelson Mandela, frail and noble, dying in his prison cell in the 1980s. You recall the outrage, the protests, the sense of a great soul extinguished too soon. You may even remember the funeral, the sea of mourners, the speeches, the flags at half-mast. Except, none of that happened. Mandela walked free in 1990. He became president. He lived until 2013. And yet, you remember otherwise. Not alone, millions do. Forums swell with people just as certain, just as confused. This is the Mandela Effect, not a personal lapse, not a trick of aging memory, but a shared hallucination of history. A collective memory that never was. A glitch not in one mind, but in many, synchronized, stubborn, strangely specific. Psychologists offer tidy explanations. Confabulation, the brain's habit of filling gaps with plausible fiction. Suggestibility, how easily memory bends under the weight of others' certainty. Pop culture osmosis, misquotations repeated so often they overwrite the original. Luke, I am your father was never spoken in Star Wars, Vader said. No, I am your father. The children's book Bears? Always Berenstain, never Berenstein. The Monopoly Man? No monocle. Pikachu's tail? Never had a black tip. Yet millions swear otherwise, with vivid, emotional conviction. The brain, it seems, prefers a good story to an accurate one, and when enough brains tell the same wrong story, it starts to feel like truth. But what if the explanation is not so neat? What if these aren't errors, but echoes? Whispers from timelines where Berenstain was spelled with an E, where Mandela did die in captivity, where the Fruit of the Loom logo did, in fact, include a cornucopia. The idea is seductive, that we've brushed against another version of reality, that universes have brushed shoulders, and for a moment, memories bled across. Let the dissonance hum, like a radio tuned between stations. Let the static linger. There is comfort in the scientific explanation, memory is fallible, culture is contagious, the mind is a storyteller, not an archivist. But there is also wonder in the other. If thousands remember the same impossible thing, is it truly impossible? Or is it evidence, faint, flickering, but persistent, that reality is less fixed than we believe? That history is not carved in stone, but written in sand, and sometimes, the tide comes in, and the words change? The Mandela Effect doesn't just challenge what we remember, it challenges what is. It invites us to question the solidity of the past, the singularity of the present, the reliability of the collective mind. It turns nostalgia into mystery, and memory into a door, slightly ajar, to somewhere else. But what if the glitch isn't in history, but in the moment? What if you open your eyes, convinced you're awake, you make coffee, you check your phone, you step into the shower, only to jolt upright in bed, heart pounding, realizing none of it happened? That you never left the mattress. That your morning was a dream, dressed as daylight. Let us now slip sideways into that layered illusion, where waking is just another kind of dreaming. Let's wander into the false awakening. You open your eyes. The ceiling is familiar, the same water stain near the corner, the same slant of morning light cutting across the dresser. You stretch, yawn, swing your legs over the edge of the bed. The floor is cool under your feet. You shuffle to the bathroom, flick on the light, squint at your reflection in the mirror, same tired eyes, same bedhead. You brush your teeth. The mint burns. You pad into the kitchen. The coffee machine gurgles obediently. You hear birds outside. A car passes. Everything is ordinary. Everything is real. You are awake. You are here. And then, your eyes snap open. Again. You're back in bed. Heart racing. Sheets damp with sweat. The coffee? Never brewed. The toothbrush? Still dry. The ceiling? Still staring. What you thought was waking, was dreaming. Not a fantasy. Not a nightmare. A perfect replica. A dream so utterly convincing, so meticulously detailed, it fooled even your skepticism. This is the false awakening, not a failure of sleep, but an overachievement of simulation. A glitch not in perception, but in presence. The brain, in its restless creativity, doesn't just dream of flying or falling or forgotten exams, it dreams of routine. Of normalcy. Of waking up. And it does so with astonishing fidelity. The weight of the blanket. The creak of the floorboard. The smell of toast you never made. These dreams often occur during REM sleep, when the brain's visual, emotional, and sensory centers are firing at full volume, while the prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic and self-awareness, remains dimmed. So you don't question it. You don't pinch yourself. You simply live the lie, sometimes layer upon layer. Some report waking up from a false awakening, only to find themselves in another. A dream within a dream within a dream. A nesting doll of consciousness, each shell more convincing than the last, until the final, true awakening comes like a gasp, sudden, disorienting, drenched in relief. Pause. Wiggle your toes. Feel the weight of your eyelids. The texture of the fabric beneath you. The rhythm of your breath. Are you here? Or are you simply in a deeper layer, one so seamless, so perfectly rendered, that the question itself feels absurd? The false awakening doesn't just blur the line between sleep and wakefulness, it dissolves it. It suggests that reality is not a place, but a setting the brain toggles on. That what you call awake might just be the most stable dream you've agreed to believe in. And if your mind can construct a morning so real you lived it twice, what else is it constructing right now? The walls around you. The voice in your head. The sense of you reading these words. Is any of it outside the simulation? And if your dreaming mind can perfectly mimic the act of waking, what happens when it tries to mimic something simpler, a single word, and fails? That frustrating, fluttering sensation when the sound is right there, dancing behind your eyes, clinging to the roof of your mouth, but refuses to be spoken. Let us now drift into that quiet stutter of the mind, where meaning is present, but the label is lost. Let's explore the tip of the tongue phenomenon. You're mid-sentence, telling a story, making a point, reaching for precision, and suddenly, the bridge collapses. You know the word. Not vaguely. Precisely. You can feel its weight, its rhythm, its first letter hovering like a held breath. It's polysyllabic. Starts with a G. You used it just last Tuesday. It's right there, behind your eyes, under your tongue, dancing just out of reach. You gesture. You fumble. You say, you know, that thing, the word for when you feel nostalgic for a place you've never been. But the word itself? Gone. Not forgotten. Not lost. Trapped. Like a fish visible through ice, you can see it, you know its shape, but you cannot pull it up. This is not the slow fade of memory. This is the tip of the tongue phenomenon, a fleeting, frustrating glitch in the machinery of language, where meaning is present, but the sound has vanished. Neurologically, it's a disconnect, not a failure of memory, but a misfire in retrieval. Your brain has successfully accessed the concept, the definition, even the number of syllables in the first phoneme. The semantic network is lit up. But the phonological loop, the mental pathway that delivers the actual spoken form, stalls. It's like having the address, the key, and the invitation, but the door refuses to open. Stress tightens the gap. Fatigue widens it. Age, sometimes, makes it a familiar haunt. And then, hours or even days later, while you're washing dishes or walking the dog, the word floats back, effortless, obvious, almost smug in its return. Sonder, you whisper to yourself. That was it. Why couldn't I say it then? The brain, it seems, works on its own schedule, filing, searching, delivering, when it damn well pleases. Let the missing word float, it'll find you when it's ready. There's something strangely comforting in that surrender. If language is the operating system of thought, the code through which we structure reality, share feeling, build worlds, then the tip of the tongue state is the moment the system hiccups. Not broken. Just buffering. Are words alive in there? Do they hide when we need them most? Do they play games, slipping behind mental shelves, waiting for the pressure to ease before revealing themselves? Or is this proof that memory is not a silent library with neatly labeled shelves, but a murmuring crowd, 1,000 voices whispering at once, and sometimes, the one you need simply refuses to speak up? The word isn't gone. It's just, shy. Or busy. Or testing you. And if the word isn't missing, what if it's been replaced? Not by silence, but by presence, by a face that mirrors yours, walking down a street you've never visited, wearing your smile, your posture, your gait, but not your name. Not your life. A stranger who is, impossibly, you. Let us now turn our gaze outward, from the glitch within the mind, to the glitch walking down the sidewalk. Doppelgänger sightings, next. You're standing on a crowded platform, scrolling through your phone, waiting for the train, when you glance up, and freeze. There, 3 feet away, is you. Not a cousin. Not someone who kind of looks like you. It's your face, your nose, your brow, the way your hair falls, staring blankly at a timetable. They shift their weight the way you do. Tuck their hair behind their ear, your exact gesture. They're even wearing the same jacket you wore last week. You open your mouth, to speak, to scream, to ask, but they turn, melt into the crowd, and vanish. No note. No glance. No explanation. Folklore would call this an omen, a harbinger of death, a soul come to collect you. But modern life whispers something quieter, stranger, coincidence? Or a cosmic copy-paste error, a brief, unauthorized duplication in the code of reality? Doppelgängers, double-goers in German, have haunted human imagination for centuries. Science, ever pragmatic, points to probability, With 8 billion faces in circulation, near-identical matches are statistically inevitable. Algorithms confirm it. Facial recognition software regularly flags strangers as near-perfect matches. But numbers don't explain the chill down your spine when your double glances at their watch, the same model you lost last month. Or when they hum a tune, one only you know. Or when they appear, uncannily, in a place you've never been, yet feel inexplicably drawn to. Psychology chalks it up to apophenia, the mind's hunger for pattern, for meaning, even where none exists. We see ourselves in strangers because we are always searching for ourselves. But what if the myth holds a sliver of truth? What if these doubles are not accidents, but echoes? Imagine meeting them. Not in fear, but in stillness. What would you ask? Where did you come from? What do you know that I don't? Are you happier? What if you're not a singular soul, but a role, a character written into the script of multiple realities, played by different actors across branching timelines? Or perhaps your double isn't elsewhere in space, but elsewhen. A version of you from a life where you took the other job, kissed the other person, boarded the other train, stepping briefly, accidentally, into your now. A scene in the multiverse, poorly stitched. A reflection not in glass, but in time. The doppelganger, then, is not a warning of death, but a whisper of possibility. A reminder that you are not fixed. Not final. That somewhere, in the shimmering web of what-ifs, another you is living the life you almost chose. But if the self can be doubled, what about the thought? The brilliant idea, the urgent reminder, the fragile insight, carried carefully through the day, only to evaporate the moment you cross a threshold. Not stolen. Not forgotten. Erased. As if the doorway itself pressed delete. Let us now step gently, through that very threshold, into the quiet amnesia of architecture. The doorway effect. You rise from the couch with purpose, tea. You need tea. The kettle, the honey, the chipped blue mug you love. You walk down the hall, footsteps soft on the rug, mind humming with the quiet rhythm of routine. Then, you cross the threshold into the kitchen. And stop. Blink. Frown. Why are you here? The thought is gone. Not faded. Not misplaced. Deleted. As if the doorway itself reached into your mind and gently pressed clear. You stand there, surrounded by countertops and cabinets, adrift in sudden, silent amnesia. It's not because you're tired. It's not because you're getting older. It's because you passed through a doorway, and doorways, it turns out, are not just physical passages. They are cognitive erasers. Architects of forgetting. Silent librarians who reshelve your intentions the moment you step across their line. Psychologists call this the doorway effect, or more formally, an event boundary. When you move from one environment to another, your brain instinctively closes the mental file on the previous context. It's a kind of cognitive housekeeping, segmenting experience into chapters so memory doesn't blur into one endless scroll. The living room chapter ends at the frame. The kitchen chapter begins beyond it. But sometimes, in that transition, the thread snaps. The intention, make tea, was still dangling from the previous scene, and when the curtain fell, it got packed away with it. Experiments confirm it. People forget tasks more often after walking through a doorway than after walking the same distance within a single room. Even virtual doorways, in video games or simulations, trigger the same glitch. The brain doesn't care if the wall is real. It only cares that you crossed a line. Next time you cross a threshold, pause. What are you leaving behind? Not just shoes or coats or sunlight, but thoughts. Feelings. Resolutions. Regrets. If a simple wooden frame can wipe your mental slate this cleanly, what other thresholds do the same? Is dawn a doorway for the soul? Does heartbreak function like a hallway, ushering you out of one version of yourself and into another, whether you're ready or not. Our seasons, rituals, farewells, all just larger, slower doorways, designed to help us shed old skins, old stories, old pains. Perhaps forgetting isn't failure. Perhaps it's function. Perhaps we are built to reset, gently, constantly, so we can begin again. So we don't carry every worry, every wound, every unfinished sentence into every new space. The doorway doesn't steal your thought. It gives you permission to release it. But what if the thought you're carrying was never yours to begin with? What if the memory feels real, vivid, emotional, detailed, but never actually happened? Not a lapse. Not a fade. A full fabrication, stitched seamlessly into your past. Let us now gently unravel that illusion, where the mind doesn't forget, it invents. False memory. You can still taste the chocolate frosting. You remember the squeak of the clown's shoes, the way the balloons brushed against the ceiling, the crinkle of wrapping paper as you tore into a gift you'd been begging for. It was your 5th birthday, the first big one, your mother said. You've told the story a dozen times. Laughed about the clown's crooked nose. Felt the warmth of that day like a blanket around your shoulders. Then, one afternoon, casually, your mother says, you didn't have a party that year. We were traveling. It was just cake at Grandma's. You freeze. No. That's impossible. You remember it. The streamers. The piñata. The way your best friend spilled punch on her dress. But there are no photos. No receipts. No corroborating stories. Just you, and a memory that never happened. This is not forgetting. This is something quieter, more unsettling, a false memory. Your brain didn't lose the past. It rewrote it. It glitched the archive, and saved over the truth with fiction so vivid, so emotionally textured, it feels more real than reality. Neuroscience reveals the unsettling elegance of this deception. When you recall a true memory, certain regions of your brain light up, the hippocampus, the amygdala, the sensory cortices, stitching together sights, sounds, feelings. But when you recall a false one, the same regions ignite. The brain doesn't tag memories with verified or fabricated. It simply reconstructs, pulling from fragments, filling gaps with plausible details, weaving coherence from suggestion, photographs, stories told by others, even dreams. A photo of a cousin's birthday becomes yours. A story your sibling told about their party gets absorbed into your timeline. A movie scene settles into your childhood like sediment. The mind is not a camera. It is a novelist, editing, embellishing, inventing, always in service of a coherent self, a continuous story, even if that story strays from fact. Let your past blur, gently. It was never set in stone. If your memories can be rewritten, not by malice, but by the quiet machinery of perception, then what is your identity, truly? Are you the author of your life, or merely its editor, rearranging scenes, softening edges, inserting dialogue that was never spoken? And if memory is fiction, what are the wounds you carry? The loves you cherish? The triumphs that buoy you? Are they, too, curated? Not false in feeling, no, the grief is real, the joy is real, but perhaps misattributed, misdated, misframed. Trauma may be rooted in truth, but its contours, its weight, its meaning, these are shaped by the stories we tell ourselves afterward. Love, too, is remembered through filters, rose-tinted, cracked, or gilded by time. The past is not a place you visit. It is a story you retell. And every retelling changes it. And if the memory can be invented, what about the label? The simple, essential word that ties a face to a history, that suddenly, inexplicably, vanishes the moment you need it? Not lost. Not forgotten. Blocked. as if a door slammed shut between you and the name you know. Let us now turn to that quiet panic, the sudden freeze when recognition is present, but the word refuses to come. Name block freeze. You see them across the room, at a party, in a hallway, waiting in line for coffee, and your heart gives that little lift of recognition. You know them. Not vaguely. Deeply. You remember their laugh from last summer's barbecue, the way they tilt their head when listening, the story they told about getting lost in Prague. You begin to smile, to raise a hand in greeting, and then, nothing. The name is gone. Not misplaced. Not hiding behind a mental curtain. Erased. You scramble. First letter? Maybe an M? Last name? Something with a CH? You panic quietly, internally, as they turn toward you, eyes lighting up in warm recognition of you. And you, tongue-tied, brain blank, offer a vague, "Hey, you," like a stranger. This isn't social clumsiness. This is a name block freeze, a sudden, silent system crash in the most human of databases. The face is loaded. The history is cached. The emotional signature is fully rendered. But the label? Temporarily offline. The brain treats proper names differently than common nouns or verbs. A chair can be described, gestured to, substituted. But a person's name? It's a singular key, often stored in fragile association with episodic or emotional memory, not semantic networks. Under stress, fatigue, or even mild distraction, the retrieval pathway stutters. The hippocampus knows who they are. The amygdala remembers how they made you feel. But the phonological loop, the mental tongue that speaks the name, draws a blank. It's not that you've forgotten them. It's that the tag, the handle, the linguistic anchor has slipped its mooring. And in that moment, the social contract trembles. Names are more than identifiers, they are acknowledgments. Invocations. To say someone's name is to summon their presence, to honor their individuality. To fail is to momentarily unthread the connection, not in your heart, but in the air between you. Breathe. The name will return. They're still there. So are you. In the quiet panic of that freeze, a deeper question hums. Is a name just a social tag, or is it part of a soul? When you forget it, do you, for a flickering second, unmake them in the shared space of recognition? And when someone forgets yours, do you feel that subtle dissolve, that quiet flicker of non-existence? There's something sacred in the act of naming, in scripture, in ritual, in love. To know and speak a name is to participate in someone's being. To lose it, even briefly, is to brush against the fragility of identity itself. But the moment passes. The name resurfaces, in the car, in the shower, at 3 a.m., and you whisper it to yourself like a prayer. Relief. Reconnection. Continuity restored. And yet, what if the word doesn't vanish, but mutates? What if, instead of silence, your mouth betrays you, swapping the sacred name for something absurd, unrelated, surreal? Not forgotten, but hijacked. Let us now wander into that strange linguistic rebellion, where the brain doesn't go blank, it goes rogue. The wrong word glitch. You open your mouth to say pass the salt, and instead, clear as day, you say pass the giraffe. Not a stutter. Not a mumble. A full, confident substitution, as if your tongue has been quietly studying surrealist poetry. You meant to praise your friend's new haircut, and instead called it a very efficient stapler. The word you needed was right there, obedient, waiting, but your brain, in a flicker of mischievous wiring, handed you something else. Not nonsense. Not gibberish. Something adjacent. Something absurd. Something that, in another context, might even make sense. This is the wrong word glitch, not a failure of language, but a detour. A lexical rebellion. Your vocabulary, for a heartbeat, staged a quiet coup. Neurologists call it semantic paraphasia, a momentary misfire in the brain's language network, where words from the same category, or sharing similar sounds or associations, get swapped. Spoon becomes fork. Cat becomes dog. Meeting becomes beehive. It's most common when tired, distracted, or under mild cognitive load, as if the brain's librarian, overwhelmed, grabs the wrong file from the shelf. But sometimes, the substitutions feel strangely apartment poetic, even. You call rain liquid sky. You describe silence as unplayed music. Was it an error, or a glimpse into a deeper, more metaphorical layer of thought trying to surface? Let your tongue wander, it knows paths your mind forgot. What if these aren't glitches at all, but whispers? What if your subconscious, tired of literalism, tired of politeness, tired of the script, seizes these moments to speak in symbols, in jokes, in riddles? Maybe llama was the truer word, absurd, soft, unexpectedly gentle, the exact emotional texture you meant to convey. Maybe your soul, not your syntax, needed to say it. Language is not just a tool. It's a living thing, slippery, evolving, occasionally rebellious. And sometimes, when the guardrails come down, it speaks more honestly than we intend. But if single words can veer off script, what happens when entire systems, vast, complex, supposedly logical, begin to stutter? When streets full of cars lock into inexplicable stillness, for no reason at all? Let us now drift outward, from the glitch in the tongue, to the glitch in the machine. Traffic flow glitches. You're sitting in your car, foot hovering over the brake, eyes scanning the horizon for the inevitable orange cones, the crumpled sedan, the flashing lights, but there's nothing. No accident. No roadwork. No stalled engine. Just stillness. Hundreds of cars, motionless, as if time itself paused for the city. Then, without warning, without reason, the cars ahead begin to glide forward. One by one. Smoothly. Silently. The jam dissolves like mist under morning sun. No explanation. No trigger. Just a collective sigh, as if the city itself exhaled, shrugged, and decided to move on. This is not malfunction. This is emergence. Traffic doesn't bow to logic. It bows to chaos. And sometimes, it glitches, not from broken signals or human error, but from the quiet mathematics of complexity, rippling backward like a wave no one meant to start. A single driver taps their brakes, just a little, just in caution, and the ripple travels. Car after car slows, then stops, amplifying the gesture until miles back, engines idle in perfect, pointless unison. No villain. No failure. Just physics whispering through steel and asphalt. Traffic is not a machine. It is an organism, pulsing, breathing, self-organizing. Cities don't just house life, they are life, vast, slow, semi-conscious entities that contract and expand, clog and flow, dream and wake. And like any living thing, they hiccup. They stutter. They pause, for reasons even they don't understand. Next time you're stuck, watch the pattern. Not with frustration, but with wonder. You're not in a line. You're inside a living algorithm, a murmuration of metal and intention, responding to invisible pressures, hidden rhythms, the collective subconscious of commuters. If traffic can behave this way, spontaneously freezing, inexplicably flowing, what else does? Markets that crash for no reason. Moods that darken across a room. Societies that shift overnight. Perhaps order is not the default state, but the exception. A temporary agreement. A fragile performance. And stasis? An illusion, a pause between pulses, a breath before the next wave. But if systems can glitch without cause, what about the small, silent things? The keys you left on the counter, now in the drawer. The book that moved while you slept. The pen that vanished and reappeared in the freezer. Not systems. Not patterns. Just objects. Behaving strangely. Let us now turn our gaze inward, from the flow of the streets, to the quiet rebellion of things. Objects moving or vanishing on their own. You place your keys, deliberately, mindfully, on the wooden table by the door. You turn to hang up your coat. You glance back. They're gone. Not fallen. Not knocked off. Vanished. Minutes later, you open the refrigerator to grab water, and there they are, nestled beside the milk, cool and innocent, as if they've always belonged there. You didn't put them there. No one else was home. The dog doesn't open the fridge. Logic stammers. Memory insists. Reality shrugged. This isn't absent-mindedness. This is something quieter, stranger, a hiccup in the material world, a moment when the contract between object and location dissolved without notice. The keys didn't hide. They relocated. On their own terms. Psychology offers gentle rationalizations, change blindness, where the mind fails to register small environmental shifts, inattentional amnesia, where stress or distraction erases the memory of your own actions. You must have moved them. You just don't recall. But sometimes, the placement is too precise, too absurd, too symbolically odd to dismiss. The earring found in the cereal box. The book shelved backward in a room you didn't enter. The pen inside a closed drawer, that only opens with a key you haven't touched all week. Paranormal traditions whisper of apports, objects materializing or dematerializing through unseen forces. Quantum theorists muse, half-jokingly, about superposition, objects briefly existing in multiple states, multiple places, until observed, and perhaps, you caught them mid-collapse. Or perhaps, and this is the most unsettling thought, you did move them. Not now. Not in this version of now. But in a timeline that brushed against yours, left its mark, and slipped away, leaving you holding the evidence of a self you no longer remember being. Let the keys stay lost. They'll find their way back, when the universe allows. There's no need to rage against the glitch. No need to force the world back into alignment. Some things are meant to wander. Some objects, like cats or dreams, operate on their own schedule. They appear when they're ready. They vanish when the story requires it. To chase them is to misunderstand their nature. They are not broken. They are not lost. They are simply elsewhere. Temporarily. And when the moment is right, when you've stopped searching, when you've surrendered to the mystery, they'll return. Often exactly where you first left them. As if nothing happened. As if you imagined it all. But if inanimate things can slip between places, what about living ones? What about the sparrow hovering, wings still, in midair, not flying, not falling, as if time forgot to carry it forward? Let us now lift our gaze, from misplaced keys, to frozen wings. Birds or insects frozen midair. You're sipping tea by the window, lost in thought, when your gaze drifts, and catches. A sparrow, wings outstretched, hangs in the air like a paper cutout pinned to the sky. Not gliding. Not flapping. Not falling. Just suspended. Utterly still. 3 seconds pass. 4. 5. Long enough for your breath to hitch, for your mind to stutter, for the ordinary rhythm of the world to feel suddenly, silently broken. Then, as if a hidden hand pressed play, it darts away, a blur of feathers and wind, leaving you blinking at empty sky, wondering if you imagined it. You didn't. Others have seen it too, dragonflies hovering like drones with dead batteries, bees suspended mid-zigzag, moths caught in midair as if pinned by invisible thread. No breeze. No trick of glass. Just life, pausing. Not resting. Not landing. Freezing. As if, for a heartbeat, time forgot to carry it forward. Science murmurs possibilities, optical illusions born from complex backgrounds confusing motion perception, or the stroboscopic flicker of rapid wing beats syncing with your own blinking, creating the illusion of stillness. But those explanations feel too tidy, too mechanical, for the quiet awe and unease the moment leaves behind. Because sometimes, the stillness lasts too long. Sometimes, multiple witnesses see it. Sometimes, it happens in open fields, under clear skies, with no visual noise to blame. What if time isn't the seamless river we've been taught to believe in? What if it pulses, not in seconds, but in deeper, subtler rhythms, and living things, finely tuned to its flow, occasionally slip between its ticks? Or perhaps, it's not the bird that paused. It's you. Your consciousness, for a flicker, blinked out of sync with the world's frame rate, and in that gap, you saw reality as it truly is, not continuous, but stitched. A film strip. A flip book. And you, just for a moment, caught it between frames. Watch the sky tonight. See what doesn't move, when it should. Don't look for magic. Don't look for proof. Just watch, with soft eyes, with quiet mind. The world is stranger than it admits. Creatures know this. They live in its folds. And sometimes, if you're still enough, they show you. But if creatures can pause in mid-flight, what about the ground beneath your feet? The street you walked yesterday, now subtly, impossibly, rearranged. Let us now turn our gaze from sky to street, where the map itself seems to rewrite its routes. Streets or maps changing overnight. You've taken this turn every Tuesday for 3 years, left at the corner with the crooked street lamp, past the blue awning of the old bakery, then a quick right into the alley that cuts behind the post office. You could do it blindfolded. But today, the alley is gone. Not blocked. Not under construction. Erased. In its place, a solid brick wall, ivy creeping up it like it's been there decades. You slow the car, heart thudding. You check the street sign. Same name. Same neighborhood. But the bakery? Now a bank. The crooked lamp? Straight and gleaming. You ask locals. They shrug. It's always been like this. City records confirm it. Google Maps agrees. But your memory, vivid, textured, saturated with the smell of sourdough and the sound of the bell above the bakery door, screams otherwise. This isn't disorientation. This is dislocation. The world you knew has been edited. And no one else seems to have the original draft. Psychologists call it geographic déjà vu, a misfiring of spatial memory, a trick of fatigue or stress. Perhaps you confused it with another street. Perhaps your brain stitched together fragments from dreams or old photos. But sometimes, the details are too precise, too structural, too emotionally anchored to dismiss as mere error. The fire hydrant that moved 6 feet overnight. The staircase in your apartment building that now has 13 steps instead of 12. The park bench that faces the opposite direction, bolts still in the original holes. Glitches in GPS? Sure. But glitches in consensus reality? That's harder to explain. What if cities aren't static grids, but living archives, constantly rewriting themselves, not through bulldozers and permits, but through something subtler? A recalibration. A recompile. Streets as code. Buildings as variables. And you? A user who stumbled into the wrong version. Next time you get lost, wonder, Did you move, or did the world? Perhaps navigation isn't about finding your way through space, but through layers. Timelines. Iterations. Maybe you didn't take a wrong turn. Maybe you took a right one, into a variant where the bakery closed last year, where the alley was never dug, where the lamp was fixed last spring. The city remembers nothing. But you do. And that memory, stubborn, shimmering, out of place, is the only proof you ever crossed over. But what if, instead of confusion, you're struck by sudden, startling clarity? Not a glitch of distortion, but of revelation. Let us now turn from shifting streets, to sharpening sight. Sudden crystal clear perception. One moment, the world is ordinary, muted, routine, comfortably dull at the edges. The next, everything snaps into focus. The green of the leaves outside isn't just green, it's 1,000-layered hues, trembling with chlorophyll and light. The dust motes in the sunbeam aren't floating, they're dancing, swirling in slow, silent orbits, each grain a tiny world catching fire in the slant of afternoon. The hum of the refrigerator isn't noise, it's a choir of coils and compressors, harmonizing in B-flat. The texture of your sweater against your skin? A landscape of woolen hills and valleys. You don't feel high. You don't feel ill. You just feel awake. As if reality, for no reason at all, decided to render itself in 4K. No trigger. No warning. Just a sudden, silent upgrade to your senses, and the world, unveiled. Neurologists might call it a failure of sensory gating, the brain's usual filters, which mute the unimportant to keep you from drowning in data, momentarily lifting. Stress can do it. Awe can do it. Migraine auras, temporal lobe flares, moments of profound grief or joy, all can crack open the door. But sometimes, it arrives like a gift. Unbidden. Unexplained. A quiet miracle of perception. In that moment, you're not hallucinating. You're not imagining. You're receiving more signal than usual, and your mind, for once, isn't editing it out. It's letting the raw feed flood in. And it's glorious. Terrifying. Sacred. Let the clarity linger, even as it fades. You glimpse the real interface, the unfiltered, unedited, unoptimized version of existence. What if this isn't the exception, but the truth? What if the blur, the numbness, the autopilot, that's the glitch? A necessary one, perhaps. A mercy. Because if you saw this much, felt this deeply, heard this clearly all the time, you'd never get anything done. You'd weep at the beauty of a sidewalk crack. You'd kneel before the symphony of a dripping faucet. The world hides its detail not to deceive you, but to protect you. To let you function. To let you survive. But if your senses can awaken to hidden layers of the present, what about your body? What if it remembers wounds you've forgotten, and not just in memory, but in flesh? Let us now turn inward, from sharpened sight, to shifting scars. Scars reappearing or moving. You run your fingers absently over your knee, and freeze. There it is. Faint, silvery, unmistakable. The scar from when you were 7, tumbling off your bike onto gravel. You haven't thought of it in years. It faded long ago, or so you thought. Now, without warning, it's back. Not from a new injury. Not from a scratch or fall. Just reappeared. Like a watermark rising through paper. Or worse, it's not even in the same place. A thin line now traces your forearm, identical in texture and tone, though you've never cut yourself there. Your skin remembers something your mind has tucked away, or perhaps, something it never knew at all. This isn't healing. This is haunting. A message written in collagen, surfacing from depths you didn't know existed. Medicine offers cautious explanations, hormonal surges stirring dormant fibroblasts, autoimmune flares reactivating old lesions, stress triggering inflammatory echoes in tissues that once bore trauma. But scars that migrate? That appear where no wound ever was? That return decades later, pristine and inexplicable? Those slip through the net of clinical logic. Some whisper of cellular memory, that skin, bone, and sinew hold imprints of experience deeper than conscious recall. Others speak of epigenetic ghosts, ancestral wounds, past life injuries, or timeline echoes surfacing under emotional pressure, as if the body is a palimpsest, and old stories are bleeding through. The scar isn't just tissue. It's testimony. A fossil of pain, resurfaced. Touch your skin. What stories is it still telling? Beneath the surface, in the quiet architecture of your flesh, are there battles you don't remember fighting? Falls you didn't take? Fires you didn't survive, in this life, perhaps, but in another? If your body can resurrect the marks of forgotten wounds, what else does it carry? Grief stored in the shoulders. Joy humming in the fingertips. Fear knotted in the gut. The body doesn't forget. It archives. It waits. And sometimes, when the mind is quiet or the soul is shaken, it speaks, not in words, but in texture, in tension, in lines drawn anew on living canvas. And if your body remembers what your mind cannot, what happens when your sense of time itself unravels? When the calendar says Tuesday, but your soul swears it's Thursday, or last June, or a date that never existed. Let us now drift from the memory written on skin, to the memory lost in time. Misplaced timelines. You wake up certain it's Tuesday, the same Tuesday you went to work, answered emails, bought groceries. But your phone glows with Thursday. Not a glitch. Not a dead battery. The world has moved on 2 days, and you have no memory of them. Worse, you remember casting a vote in an election still months away. You recall a president giving a speech, a president who never won, never took office, never existed in any news archive. You didn't misread the date. You didn't dream it. The memory is crisp, emotional, detailed, down to the pattern of the tie they wore. Time didn't skip. You did. Or perhaps, you slid. Sideways. Into a day that belongs to someone else's calendar, a memory stitched from a thread that doesn't run through your life. This isn't jet lag. This isn't fatigue. This is temporal dislocation, the quiet, chilling sense that you've brushed against a timeline that isn't yours. Neurology chalks it up to dissociation, sleep fragmentation, or stress-induced time distortion, the brain's internal clock stuttering, misfiling moments, collapsing hours into voids. And often, that's enough. But sometimes, the dislocation is too precise, too narrative, too anchored in external detail to dismiss as mere mental static. You remember conversations no one else recalls. You mourn losses that haven't happened. You celebrate victories still years away. The world insists you're wrong. But your memory insists, gently, stubbornly, that you're not. Metaphysics offers a softer, stranger possibility, timeline drift. That time isn't a single, forward-flowing river, but a vast, branching sea, and you, a small boat, sometimes carried by unseen currents to shores that don't belong to you. You didn't lose time. You borrowed it. From another version. Another path. Another you. Let the days blur. Calendars are fictions, human inventions to tame the wild, non-linear truth of existence. Days don't march. They spiral. They echo. They overlap. You are here. Now. Aren't you? Or are you simply the version of you that believes you are? The one that hasn't yet noticed the seam? But if time can misplace you, what about the things within it? The wristwatch found in a Civil War trench. The smartphone in a Renaissance painting. Objects that don't just vanish, but don't belong. Let us now turn from drifting days to impossible things. Out-of-place objects. You're touring a natural history museum, peering into a glass case labeled Cretaceous period, 100 million years BCE, when something glints, metallic, polished, unmistakably mechanical. A pocket watch. Tarnished, yes, but engraved with Roman numerals, nestled in sediment older than mammals. Or perhaps you're studying a 17th century Dutch portrait, stiff collars, oil paint, solemn gaze, and there, tucked in the subject's hand, is something rectangular, black, with a glowing edge. A smartphone. Or worse, you crack open a lump of coal, expecting carbon and dust, and find a child's Lego brick, perfectly preserved, impossibly embedded. These aren't Photoshop pranks or drunken tall tales. They're called OOP-arts, out-of-place artifacts, reality's misplaced files, dropped into the wrong folder of history. Glitches in the archive of time. Most, of course, dissolve under scrutiny, misdated strata, modern contaminants, clever forgeries, or simple misinterpretation. But a stubborn few resist. The London hammer, encased in Ordovician rock, 400 million years old. The Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old Greek device so complex, it rewrote our understanding of ancient technology. The shoe in the coal, found in a Pennsylvania mine in the 1800s, perfectly formed, stitched, impossibly ancient. These aren't anomalies to be dismissed. They are invitations to question the linearity of progress, the singularity of civilization, the arrogance of our place in time. What if history isn't a straight line, but a spiral? What if great societies rose, flourished, fell, not once, but many times, leaving behind fragments the earth swallowed, only to cough them up when we're ready, or when we're not? Hold an old object tonight. Feel its weight. The coolness of its surface. The grooves worn by hands you'll never know. Who held it, before time forgot? Was it a warning? A message in a bottle from a drowned world? Or simply a glitch, a seam in time's fabric, where past, present, and future brush too close, and something slipped through? These objects don't prove alternate histories. They whisper them. Softly. Persistently. Like echoes from a door we didn't know was open. But not all glitches announce themselves with physical form. Some are felt, crawling, tingling, maddening, with no source, no mark, no explanation. Let us now turn from the seen, to the sensed. The invisible itch. It starts as a whisper, a faint, skittering sensation along your forearm, like the brush of spider legs. You glance down. Nothing. No insect. No irritation. No mark. But the feeling persists, crawling up your neck now, dipping between your shoulder blades, maddening in its precision, its insistence. You scratch, once, twice, but your nails meet only smooth skin. No relief. No cause. Just sensation, unmoored from source. Your nerves are singing a song no one else can hear. A phantom limb, but for your skin. This isn't delusion. It's neurology, or perhaps, something quieter, stranger. Your body, for reasons it won't explain, has conjured a presence that isn't there. A ghost in the machine. A glitch in the flesh. Medically, it's called formication, from the Latin formica, ant, or more broadly, paresthesia, that family of tingles, pins, needles, and crawls with no external trigger. Anxiety can summon it. Fatigue can coax it. Withdrawal, vitamin deficiency, nerve compression, all common culprits. But sometimes, it arrives uninvited, unexplained, as if your nervous system, bored or overwrought, decided to stage a performance. The brain, starved of novel input or drowning in static, begins to generate its own signals, turning silence into texture, stillness into motion. It's not malfunction. It's improvisation. A sensory daydream. Let the itch be. Don't scratch. It's not there. Or is it? If your body can invent sensation, vivid, undeniable, tactile, what else is it fabricating? Is that ache in your back truly structural, or a story your nerves are telling? Is that rush of warmth affection, or just dopamine dancing? Is the presence you feel behind you in an empty room imagination, or intuition brushing up against something just beyond perception? Are you haunted by spirits, or by the astonishing, untamed creativity of your own biology? The line between signal and noise, between real and imagined, blurs here, not in madness, but in mystery. The body is not a passive vessel. It is a storyteller. Sometimes, it tells tales that leave no trace, except in the mind that feels them. And if your body can conjure sensations without source, what happens when your very sense of self detaches? When you look down, and see yourself lying still, while you float near the ceiling? Let us now drift upward, from phantom skin, to wandering soul. Out-of-body experience. You're lying in bed, or perhaps sitting in a chair, or recovering from a shock, when, without warning, you're no longer in your body. You're above it. Floating near the ceiling, calm and weightless, gazing down at the form beneath you, your hair splayed on the pillow, your chest rising and falling, your hands resting exactly where you left them. There's no fear. No panic. Only quiet curiosity, as if you've slipped out of a coat you didn't realize was so heavy. You didn't die. No tunnel. No light. No angels. You simply stepped out. A glitch in embodiment. A temporary eviction of the soul from its vessel, not by death, but by neurological accident, meditation, trauma, or sometimes, for no reason at all. This is the out-of-body experience, not a vision, not a dream, but a visceral, spatial rearrangement of self. Science locates the glitch in the temporoparietal junction, the brain's cartographer of bodily location. When this region misfires, the internal map crumples. The you that usually resides behind your eyes, anchored in muscle and bone, detaches. You become pure observer, watching your own breath, your own stillness, from a vantage point that shouldn't exist. Experiments confirm it, stimulate the right spot with electrodes, and subjects report floating. Induce sensory confusion with VR and vibrating gear, and the mind willingly abandons the body. It's not magic. It's mechanics, misaligned. And yet, what it reveals is anything but mundane. Close your eyes. Imagine rising. Who is still lying down? If you can hover above your own skin, then who, or what, is doing the hovering? Are you your body? Or are you the awareness that usually lives inside it, and can, under strange conditions, slip free? If consciousness can float untethered, even briefly, then the body is not the self. It is the vehicle. The interface. The temporary shell. And you? You are the witness. The silent center. The one who watches, even when the watcher has no hands, no heartbeat, no gravity. But if you can leave your body, what happens when time itself leaves its rhythm? When seconds stretch into eternities, and the world slows to a crawl around you? Let us now turn from floating above, to falling through. Time dilation and emergencies. The world doesn't scream when it breaks, it whispers. One moment, you're driving, humming along to the radio. The next, tires screech, metal groans, glass explodes outward in a glittering constellation. And then, silence. Not real silence, but the eerie, stretched quiet of time itself slowing. You see every shard of windshield catching the afternoon sun like falling diamonds. You watch your own hands, calm, deliberate, turning the wheel, as if underwater. You count the panicked beats of your heart, each one echoing like a drum in an empty hall. The car spins, not in a blur, but in frames, like a film reel manually cranked. You have time to think, this is it, and then, not yet. Time didn't bend. Physics didn't pause. Your brain simply overclocked. In the grip of adrenaline, your amygdala flips a switch, flooding your system with norepinephrine, sharpening every sense, forcing your hippocampus to record everything. Not because time slowed, but because your memory is laying down tracks in high definition. You're not living slower. You're remembering deeper. This is time dilation in emergencies, not a cosmic phenomenon, but a biological one. The illusion of stretched seconds is your nervous system's desperate gift: more data, more detail, more chance to survive. In that hyperclarity, you notice things you never would: the pattern of cracks spreading across the pavement, the license plate of the car beside you, the exact shade of blue in the sky above the crumpling hood. Your mind is archiving, frantically, lovingly, as if this moment might be your last, and if it isn't, you'll need to study it later, to learn, to heal, to avoid the next one. Next time you're afraid, notice the details. Not to panic. Not to freeze. But to witness. Time is giving you a gift, not more life, but more seeing. What if this clarity isn't distortion, but revelation? What if time is always this rich, this textured, this slow, and we're simply too numb, too distracted, too asleep inside our routines to notice? Crisis doesn't break time. It polishes it. It wipes the fog from the lens. You were always living in slow motion. You just needed terror to finally see it. But if time can stretch to hold you, what about the things you meant to do, the emails, the calls, the small promises, that simply vanish? Not forgotten. Not ignored. Erased. Let us now turn from expanded moments to evaporated intentions. The vanishing task. You sit at your desk, fingers poised over the keyboard, mind set on purpose. You're going to write that email. The one you've been putting off. The subject line is already forming in your head. You open the window. You type the recipient's name. And then, nothing. Not distraction. Not procrastination. A true blank. The why is gone. The urgency, the context, the emotional weight, all dissolved. It's not that you forgot how to write. You forgot why you were writing at all. As if the task was never assigned. As if the intention was a whisper the wind stole before it reached your ears. This is not laziness. This is not forgetfulness. This is the vanishing task, a cognitive null file. A ghost of purpose that evaporated before it could take root. Neurologically, it's a casualty of overload. Your working memory, already juggling a dozen half-formed thoughts, drops the packet. A microsleep of attention. A synaptic shrug. Your brain, flooded with noise, simply unspooled the thread, letting the intention decay before it could become action. It's the mental equivalent of a browser tab closing without warning. No crash. No error message. Just gone. And the strangest part? You often don't even notice it's missing, not until hours later, when you stumble upon the half-drafted email, the unpaid bill, the unsent text, and wonder, what was I thinking? Let the task go. If it was important, it'll return. Perhaps this isn't failure. Perhaps it's filtration. Maybe some tasks aren't meant to be done, not because they're unimportant, but because they're misaligned. Did the universe quietly cancel them? Did your subconscious, wiser than your to-do list, decide this wasn't the moment? Or did some deeper version of you, the one that knows when to rest, when to release, when to let the river carry what it will, gently dissolve the assignment before it could become a burden? Not every intention is a command. Some are suggestions. Some are echoes. Some are just noise. And if tasks can vanish without trace, what about sensations? What if the crawling, the itching, the phantom skittering returns, not from memory, but from nowhere at all? Let us now turn from evaporated purpose to imagined infestation. Formication, phantom bugs. It begins as a whisper, a faint, skittering ripple along your forearm, delicate as cobweb, insistent as static. Then it spreads, up your neck, down your spine, across your scalp, the unmistakable, maddening sensation of tiny legs. Ants. Spiders. Invisible beetles marching in formation beneath your skin. You slap your thigh. You brush your collar. You scratch, hard, desperate, but your nails meet only smooth, unbroken flesh. No welts. No bites. No evidence. Just the sensation, vivid, relentless, intimate. Your nerves are either lying to you, or telling you something no one else can hear. This is formication, not a disease, not an infestation, but a phantom signal. A sensory ghost story written in nerve endings, starring bugs that don't exist. Medicine traces it to restless biology, withdrawal from substances that once numbed the system, hormonal tides shifting beneath the surface, misfiring neurons in the somatosensory cortex. Stress alone can summon it, the mind, overwhelmed, conjuring tactile drama to match inner chaos. The brain hates unexplained sensation. So when discomfort arises without source, it improvises. It must be bugs. A story to make sense of the static. A villain to blame for the itch. But what if the explanation is softer, or stranger? What if your skin, that vast, sensitive membrane between you and the world, is picking up frequencies you've forgotten how to name? Static electricity humming from old wiring. Emotional residue clinging to a room. Or perhaps, the faint, fading memory of a life where you were prey, small, skittering, hunted, and your body, in its ancient wisdom, still flinches at the ghost of teeth and claws. Don't scratch. Breathe. The bugs are stories. Let them crawl away. There's no need to fight them. No need to prove they're real or imagined. They are visitors, fleeting, unsettling, but ultimately harmless. They come when your system is overloaded, when your boundaries feel thin, when the world presses too close. Let them pass. Let them dissolve into the air like smoke. They are not invaders. They are messengers, of tension, of transition, of thresholds crossed. Listen, if you dare. Then release. But if your skin can invent crawling creatures, what about your ears? What if the song you've loved for years never said what you thought it did? Let us now turn from phantom legs to misheard words. Misheard lyrics, the Mondegreen. You've belted it out in the shower for a decade, passionately, proudly, slightly off-key. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. It made perfect sense. A love song. A confession. A rock and roll shrug before leaning in for the kiss. Then, one idle afternoon, you glance at the lyrics online, and the world tilts. It's not guy. It's sky. Kiss the sky. Not a person. Not a romance. A metaphor. A gesture toward the infinite. But guy fit better. Felt truer. Sounded right. Your brain didn't fail to hear. It chose to rewrite. Not out of error, but out of artistry. This is the Mondegreen, not a glitch of hearing, but a flourish of meaning. Your mind, restless and creative, took sound and sculpted sense, even if that sense was never intended. The term was born from poetry, a child mishearing the Scottish ballad The Bonny Earl o' Moray, They Have Slain the Earl o' Moray, and laid him on the green, became an Lady Mondegreen. A noblewoman invented from syllables. A ghost conjured by misperception. And how many more have we summoned? There's a bathroom on the right instead of there's a bad moon on the rise. Gladly, the cross-eyed bear instead of gladly the cross-eyed bear. These aren't mistakes. They're collaborations between the singer, the song, and the listener's hungry, pattern-seeking mind. The brain doesn't want noise. It wants narrative. So when syllables blur, it stitches them into stories, sometimes absurd, sometimes profound, always personal. Sing your version. It's yours. The truth is overrated. What matters is the meaning you made. The Mondegreen is proof that perception is never passive. You don't just receive the world, you translate it. Remix it. Reauthor it. Your brain is a poet, a prankster, a mythmaker, constantly bending sound into sense, chaos into coherence, or beautiful nonsense. Maybe Kiss This Guy is better. Maybe Lady Mondegreen deserved to exist. Maybe the cross-eyed bear carries more grace than the cross we're meant to bear. These mishearings aren't failures of attention. They're eruptions of imagination, quiet rebellions against literalism, tiny acts of co-creation between you and the universe. But what if the words you misheard were words you'd already dreamed? What if the lyric, the moment, the feeling, you lived it first, in sleep? Let us now drift from misheard songs to prescient dreams. Déjà Rêvé, already dreamed. The air smells like rain on hot pavement, exactly as it did in the dream. The barista says, "Have a beautiful day," with the same lilt, the same pause before beautiful. The sunlight cuts through the cafe window at the precise angle you remember, gold pooling on the table, glinting off the spoon. You even recall, with eerie clarity, waking from that dream last week, heart pounding, sheets damp, whispering to the dark, that felt too real. What if it happens? And now, it has. Not a vague sense of familiarity. Not déjà vu's ghostly echo. This is déjà rêvé, already dreamed. You are not remembering a past life or misfiring neurons. You are reliving a script your sleeping mind wrote days, weeks, or months ago, down to the smallest sensory detail. The dream wasn't fantasy. It was forecast. Neurologists note its prevalence in those with temporal lobe sensitivity, epilepsy, migraines, deep meditative states, where the boundary between memory, dream, and perception grows thin. But you don't need a diagnosis to feel it. It arrives unbidden, a conversation unfolding word for word as you once dreamed it. A stranger's gesture, replicated perfectly. The taste of a meal you've never eaten, until now. Unlike déjà vu, where the memory of the original moment is lost, here, you remember the dream itself. Vividly. Emotionally. As if your subconscious didn't just imagine the future, but visited it. Did you predict it? Or did your dreaming mind slip sideways, brushing against the timeline where this moment already existed, and brought back the memory like a traveler returning with a photograph? Are dreams rehearsals, your psyche preparing you for emotional terrain ahead? Or are they records, echoes of moments that have already rippled through the fabric of possibility, waiting for you to catch up? And if you dream this, what else is waiting in the archive of your sleep? What joys, what losses, what quiet turning points have you already witnessed behind closed eyes? Trust your dreams. They remember what you haven't lived yet. Don't dismiss them as nonsense. Don't file them away as noise. They are not random firings. They are whispers from the deeper layers of your awareness, maps drawn in starlight, letters sent from your future self. Pay attention. The next one might be a warning. A gift. A guide. But if dreams can mirror the present, what about sound? What if a voice, a phrase, a melody, you've heard it before, not in waking, not in dreaming, but somewhere in between? Let us now turn from seen dreams to heard echoes. Déjà Entendu, already heard. A stranger leans across the counter, smiles, and says, "Funny how the quiet moments stick with you, isn't it?" And your breath catches. Not because of the words. Because of the way they said them. The slight rasp on funny, the pause before quiet, the exhale after you. You've heard this. Not similar. Identical. Same inflection. Same rhythm. Same weight behind the syllables. But you've never met this person. Never watched this scene. Never lived this exchange. Except, you have. Somewhere. In a dream you forgot? A movie you saw as a child? A conversation overheard in a cafe years ago, buried beneath layers of memory? Or perhaps, not in this life at all. This is Déjà Entendu, already heard. Not a trick of sight, not a fold in time, but a whisper in the ear, a sound that slips past logic and lands deep in the marrow of your knowing. Neurologically, it's likely a misfire, the auditory cortex mislabeling a new stimulus as familiar, stitching together fragments of forgotten phrases, half-remembered songs, ambient noise from long-ago rooms. But the feeling it leaves behind is older than explanation. It's the sensation of recognition without origin, as if sound, unlike sight, lingers. As if vibrations never truly fade. What if echoes don't just live in canyons, but in walls? In air? In bone? What if certain phrases, tender, strange, or weighted with fate, ripple outward, timeless, and brush against you again, years, lifetimes later? Or perhaps, and this is the quietest, most haunting possibility, you're not hearing a fragment from the past, but from another version of yourself. A self who spoke these words in a life you no longer remember. A self who laughed with this tone, who sighed with this cadence, who loved or lost or whispered secrets in this exact rhythm. Listen closely to the next voice you hear. The barista. The bus driver. The child laughing down the hall. Have you always known it? Not in this body. Not in this year. But in the deeper current, the one that carries souls through lifetimes, stories through centuries, songs through silence. The voice may be new. The sound is ancient. And if sound can echo across time, what about survival? What if death never finds you, not because you're lucky, but because you can't be found? Let us now arrive at the final glitch, the one that outlasts all others. Quantum immortality. You should have died. Not once, but many times. The car that swerved into your lane, inches from impact, and veered away. The fever that climbed to 105, then broke at dawn. The step you didn't take off the cliff's edge. The diagnosis that never came. The bullet that missed. The fall that didn't break you. You call it luck. You call it fate. You whisper thank God. But what if none of those are true? What if it's not grace, not chance, not divine intervention, but physics? Cold, quiet, infinite physics. In the branching garden of the multiverse, every choice, every accident, every quantum twitch spawns a new reality. And your consciousness? It doesn't float through them all. It clings, stubbornly, inevitably, to the branches where you live. This is quantum immortality. Not a promise of eternal youth. Not invincibility. But continuity. You never experience death, because in the universes where you die, there is no you left to experience it. You only wake up, again and again, in the worlds where breath remains in your lungs, where the heart keeps beating, where the story hasn't ended, yet. It sounds like science fiction. But it flows logically from the many worlds interpretation. If every quantum possibility unfolds in its own universe, then for every fatal outcome, there exists a version of reality where, by sheer statistical whisper, you survive. And since consciousness can only persist where the body does, you, the observer, the experiencer, are always, eternally, in one of those surviving branches. You are not lucky. You are inevitable. You are the statistical constant. The one who always wakes up. The one who always walks away. In every universe where you cease to be, silence reigns. No witness. No memory. No grief. Only here, in this thread of existence, fragile and improbable, do you remain. Aware. Breathing. Alive. You've survived 100% of your worst days. You always will. Not because the universe loves you, but because you cannot experience the versions of reality where you didn't. So sleep now. You're safe. In this timeline, at least. Let that truth cradle you, not as fear, but as quiet wonder. You are the thread that never snaps. The story that refuses to end. The consciousness that, against all odds, against all physics, against all death, persists. And will. As long as there is a branch left to walk. As long as there is a breath left to take. As long as there is a you to notice. Reality glitches, not to frighten you, but to remind you. Memory stutters, not to betray you, but to show you how softly the past is written. Time folds, not to confuse you, but to whisper that past, present, and future are neighbors, not strangers. You are not broken. Not lost. Not malfunctioning. You are awake, truly awake, inside the great, humming machine of existence, brushing up against its seams, feeling its rhythm stutter and sigh. These glitches are not errors. They are lullabies, gentle, eerie, cosmic. Let them rock you. Let them hum through your bones as you sink into the dark. You are here. You are safe. The walls still stand. The air still breathes. And whether you are dreaming or waking, whether this is the only world or one of countless, whether your thoughts are yours or echoes from another self, none of that matters now. Close your eyes. Let the glitches sing. Let the universe hum its strange, soothing tune. Sleep now. You are held. You are witnessed. You are wherever you need to be.